Welcome to Cryptids, Crypts and Coffee, the podcast where two awkward Brits talk about horror with a bunch of unsuspecting guests. I'm Lou Yardley, and if you say my name in the bathroom mirror 3 times, I'll appear and steal your toilet roll. I'm the writer of some horror novels and now some horror fantasy novels as well. And today, as always, I'm joined by my co-host.
Hello, I'm Janine Pipe. I also attempt to write horror, but I won't steal your toilet roll. And today we have two very lovely guests. We have author and artist Cameron Roubique, and we have reviewer and podcaster Alex Pearson joining us as we talk about slashers. We're very excited, guys, to have you here with us, especially me, because I've decided rather than do any kind of research for my book, I'm just going to listen to you two talk and just make notes. That's the easy way to do it then. So when Lou and I usually talk to people, we kind of go round table, we ask the questions, let you guys as our guests answer, and then we answer as well. But we thought because slashers is such a small subgenre, there's bound to be so much overlap, and you two are our experts. So we're going to ask you the questions and then we will just chip in with bits and pieces. But we really want to hear what you guys think, because you two know your stuff, hopefully.
I don't know if I'd call myself an expert. I'm more of like I just kind of obsessively watch my favorite slashers over and over, you know?
That counts. We'll lean on Alex then. He's got a whole podcast about slashers, so he has to be an expert.
Yeah. So you're carrying this one.
A lot of the ones that I'm watching are new to me for the first time, or finding them from the vaults of the 80s. So there's a lot of repeat favorites that we've been recording about, but there's a lot of new ones. There's so many titles out there.
Oh, there are. There's hundreds of them, and some of them are better than others, we will say. Okay, lovely. Let's jump right in then. If we start with you, Cameron, then please. What would you say that your top 5 slasher movies are?
Ooh, that's always like the hardest question that I get asked, where it's like, what are the top 5 or top 10? I'm like, I have so many favorites that it's hard to narrow it down. Are we talking like the mainstream ones or like the lesser known ones?
Anything you want. Lesser known ones are cool as well. Anything.
Well, let's see. I love Sleepaway Camp. That one's one of my absolute favorites. I love Silent Night, Deadly Night. I love Child's Play, especially Child's Play 2. The whole Chucky series and everything are amazing. Of course, I love like the Friday the 13th and all those too. And I'm trying to think of other ones that are worth mentioning. I mean, I love My Bloody Valentine, which perfect weekend for that. Oh, yeah. I don't know. It's really hard for me to narrow it down to just 5, but because I love so many of them. But those would probably be like on my top of my list, I guess. Okay. I don't know. I could go on and on. Don't get me started.
I've just spotted the Child's Play poster behind you. Child's Play 2.
Oh, yes.
I have that, and then I have a Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and then I have a Sleepaway Camp one there.
Very nice.
So I've got the Trinity. I've got like the Trinity with Halloween and Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street in the other room.
Very cool. So most of those would be ones that people did know. So you said that you had some lesser known ones as well. So do you want to tell us what some of your favourite ones that people might go, oh, I don't know that?
I love, there's a Canadian one called Funeral Home that's really good. I mean, it's got like a twist ending that you can kind of see coming, but I really like it. It's got Leslie Donaldson, she's from Curtains, and she's from Happy Birthday to Me. She gets killed in the opening scene of Happy Birthday to Me, and she's like the main kind of final girl, and she's really sweet, and I don't know, I love her, and I feel like she should have been in more slasher movies. But Curtains is another one that a lot of people haven't heard of that is really, really good. Curtains is awesome.
Okay, I'm making a note of these. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Alex, what are some of your favourites, whether they're mainstream or ones that are a bit more obscure?
I like, I mean, mainstream and obscure always, but like I always fall into certain tropes like sorority houses or summer camps, uh, just kind of stuff like that. So a lot of mine are that slumber parties in general. There's never enough pillow fighting. So, but Slumber Party Massacre 2 is probably one of my favorites. Um, then I would say Sleepaway Camp is definitely in a top five, and I go back and forth between the first one and the second one. They're such a different films. One's almost a comedy, and one's a serious horror film. But just depending on my mood for those. Madman is a movie that I don't know if a lot of people know about. It's a kind of a camp, kind of a urban legend in the woods type story.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
Yep.
Trying to think. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I know, like in the horror in this community that we have, it's a pretty popular movie. But to a normal random Joe on the street, they're probably a lot of them stopped after the first Nightmare on Elm Street. But part 3 is just as good for me. And then I got to go too with on keeping with the Wes Craven theme, origins. But Scream. I think Scream was a very
Yes.
revolutionary in terms of revitalizing the slasher franchise in a different way, and I just think it's an iconic film. So that's always in a top five for me.
Definitely, yeah. I know there seems to be this weird split in the community with Scream, and that some people absolutely love it, and Lou and I do. We love the Scream films, and then there's other people that are adamant that it is the worst thing that's ever happened to horror. And it's just like, I think you have to take it for what it is. It is just a silly film that laughs at itself, but it's it's so good with it as well, and the characters are great, and obviously it spawned so many sequels and whatnot. But there seems to be this real divide, almost like a snobbery of people being like, oh no, Scream it shouldn't even be classed as a slasher film. But we love it. We're excited for the new one.
Yeah.
Is it definitely confirmed?
Yeah, I think it's like January 14th of 2022, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I think. Yeah.
It will be good. I'm determined it's going to be good. And you said Madman, that would be your kind of one that people might not have heard of. Have you got any more really obscure ones that people are like, ooh, don't know about that one?
Yeah, I mean, there is one called The Dark Power. I can't really totally recommend this in any sort of a politically correct context because it is over the top in so many ways that's offensive. But it's about this. It stars, I think his name is Lash LaRue, and he was one of those kind of like you'd find his Western movies in like the $3 bins at Walmart or Target or something, like really, really bad movies. But he's this whip wielding park ranger, and it turns out there's this sorority that gets built on this house, or no, a sorority moves into this house where a guardian of the Dark Power, which is basically 4 Toltec sorcerers who have killed themselves and are going to resurrect, and I don't know what their plans are, but it's just it is wild. I think that's probably the most obscure film I could probably tell anybody to watch.
Sounds bonkers.
Wild.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Nobody mentioned The Burning, and I absolutely love The Burning.
Oh, I love The Burning.
I love it.
Burning's great.
I haven't seen The Burning.
Have you not?
No.
It's
You gotta
classic,
check
pure
out The Burning.
80s, yeah.
I thought of another one too. There's one called Graduation Day. It's kind of well known. It was like one of those trauma movies,
Right.
but that one's really good too. I love it. Like a high school graduation day slasher. It's from '81, the golden year.
The
81
golden
was
year, indeed.
great
The year
year
of blood.
for
Yeah.
Definitely. Awesome. Okay, thank you very much. Right, so moving on to slasher books. Cameron, since you are the writer of slasher books, who else would you recommend? I've got put some on the display.
I know.
Hey.
Who would you recommend that we read apart from your own amazing books?
Oh, thanks. I always recommend Night Shoot by David Sodergren.
Yes.
That book is amazing. I loved it. There's parts in it that are that genuinely creeped me out, where I was like, all right, this is awesome. I always recommend Regina St. Clair's Unmasked. She
Yeah.
did she edited Local Haunts and the upcoming Served Cold, and Unmasked. She wrote that one, and that one's great. It's got kind of an April Fool's Day type vibe to it. But it's not a big like fake out, at the end like a April Fool's Day is, but it's kind of got a similar feel to that. But yeah, Unmasked is really great. And I would also say Camp Slaughter by Sergio Gomez is really good.
Yep.
The killer in that, I think his name is Various Caris. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But he's like a luchador, like Leatherface type thing.
Wow.
And he's really crazy, and like it's a really good book. Sergio Gomez's books are really cool because they always have this weird kind of like, I don't know, I want to say like supernatural type thing to him, but it's like very like big and unexplained. And his stories just feel really, really big and kind of like there's something like a big epic story behind it. But yeah, Camp Slaughter's really good, and he's working on a sequel. I think it's coming out in October called Halloween Slaughter, so that'll be the part 2.
Yes,
and I am super excited for that.
Definitely, yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, cool. I keep forgetting that Regina wrote that, and I must read it because she's so lovely. She's such a nice person, so I must read that definitely. Okay, cool. Alex, what books would you? I know that you like reading, obviously. Which books would you recommend to us?
I mean, it goes without saying, Cameron's books are just incredible. I haven't read Disco Death Trap yet, but I it's got to make it soon. But
you will love that, yeah.
It's just insanely great. Other really good stories I like. Cirque Berserk by Jessica Guess came out last year.
That is fantastic.
Her twist and modernization and kind of flip on the slasher trope and genre was really, really great, and I recommend that to everybody now. I thought Fat Camp by James Sabata, it might be how you say his name, was a really fun read. Again, these are camp or 80s movies or settings. Children of the Dark by Jonathan Jans has like a slasher supernatural kind of true crime pair up. I always recommend that too. And he's got a sequel in the works. I think it's waiting to be published at some point, but I'm super stoked about that. Another one, I can't not mention The Bizarro Ape Shit by Carlton Mellick. It is just insanity. Like, I just can't even explain how insane and bloody and profane that story is, but I love it.
I'm sold. I need to read that.
and on a non like in your face blood and guts and horror type thing, with a great like a whole literary vibe behind it. Keelan Patrick Burke's Kin takes a whole new twist on like it's like post slasher, but there were parts of that book that I could smell. I mean, his writing was so good I could smell scenes. And then Anya Alborn's Brother is sort of similar to that. It's slasher-esque, slasher adjacent, but with kind of a heart and a little more, and like, just some meaty feels to it.
Okay, there's a couple on there that I will definitely be adding. I've got Fat Camp, Camp Slaughter, Kill Hill Carnage, Tim Meyer. Under the Blade, is that Matt Serafini, I think? Betty Rose the Cannibal King, Hayley Piper. Dead Girl Blues, as well as Night Shoot. And Savages. I can't remember who that was by, but that was ones that Sadie actually recommended when I said, and Night of the Mannequins, Stephen Graham Jones as well, for slasher novels. I've put on my list as well Slash by Hunter Shea, which is kind of again, it's a bit different because it's looking at a final girl and her sort of story, because she's actually a survivor, and then what happens to her. And Clown in the Cornfield by Adam Caesar, that was absolutely amazing as well. Loved that. Lou, have you got any favourite slasher books that we haven't mentioned?
Well, we have mentioned it, but that Kill River was pretty good.
Yeah, that was all right.
Don't know about that all first. And I was going to mention Night Shoot as well, because I seem to be on contract to mention David every episode now.
Yes. Yeah.
David's books are amazing.
Yeah, he is secretly. Oh no, I'm just giving it away.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so next question would be, who is your favourite slasher baddie character? So the protagonist, antagonist, whatever, you know, who's your favourite baddie in any of the slashers, whether it's books or movies, anything at all? Cameron.
You mean like the killer, or you mean like kind of like a asshole character?
I do mean the killer. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at, but I could have just said that.
I don't know. That's a hard question too. I'm just always drawn to Chucky, because Chucky, Child's Play was actually the first slasher I ever saw. I watched it when it was for my 8th birthday. It was one of my presents for my 8th birthday. I was bugging my parents to watch slasher movies, and my dad taped Child's Play off USA Network like back in the 90s, and just wrapped up the VHS tape and just wrote Child's Play on it, and I opened that up and I was like, oh my god, I got to watch Child's Play. So I'm obsessed with Chucky. I love Chucky. I still watch. They used to show those on that USA. They'd show them like every Halloween. I still watch them, and I love Chucky. I'm looking forward to that new Sci-Fi Channel series that they're making. That's gonna be great too.
What did you think of the new film?
The remake one?
Yeah, with Mark Hamill.
I didn't see it actually. I have not seen it.
I mean, I don't think it's as good, but I liked Mark Hamill's Chucky. I thought he did well. And it was amusing.
Okay.
There's a good scene with a lawnmower.
I have to say it had some pretty good death scenes, and I was thinking about that lawnmower scene right off the bat.
You can't go wrong with a lawnmower scene in anything.
Without a lawnmower, we wouldn't have had the movie Frankenhooker. So,
yeah.
I've seen that.
Who's your favourite killer then, Alex?
So there's like two types of killers for me. There's the killer who's the silent, creepy stalker. Then there's the killer full of sarcasm and witty wordplay and all of that. So Chucky kind of falls into that category of the witty wordplay. So I do like that. I also, really like Freddy Krueger just for that same reason. Now, it got a little over the top towards the end of the franchise when he's on, Arsenio, or no, Jason was on Arsenio Hall. But either way, Freddy became too much of a pop icon for me at one point. But it's up there with him and, Angela Baker from the last two installments, or the parts 2 and 3 of Sleepaway Camp, just because of her wordplay. I think she's got some really good one-liners. And then the driller killer from Slumber Party Massacre 2 with the guitar drill. And he's like singing songs and in a leather fringe jacket and eyeliner. And I mean, it's just pretty outrageous. So I like those. I like watching those and rewatching those killers the most. But opposite of what Cameron said, Chucky did scare me to an extent that it's a little traumatic for me to go back and watch those still, because I don't know if anyone's familiar. There used to be a doll called My Buddy. He had like red overalls and a blue and yellow striped shirt and bleach blonde hair. Well, my family colored his hair with markers, made him orange, and threw him over the stairs on strings. And it wasn't kind of them, and I was like real young, and it scared me.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, poor little Alex. You were traumatized
Oh well,
for life.
another thing they did. I had a Himalayan cat, and they hid her from me for like 3 days, just like in their room. And then they got her. We had a funeral for her and everything. They told me she had passed, and then I just see her walking across the living room one day, all dirty and wet looking. And of course, I had just seen Pet Cemetery, so scarred for life. Like, they really did a number on me. So, oh well, maybe the horror fan that I am today.
Oh, are you in therapy for it?
Oh, self-medicated, definitely. Who's gonna steal your toilet paper? I'm gonna steal your wine if you say my name 3 times.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, thank you. Excuse me. And Lou, I know you like Jason as well, don't you, as Chucky?
Yeah, and
he be your favourite?
Michael Myers as well.
Yeah, I think Michael Myers is mine.
But Chucky's my top favourite.
Chucky. Gotta love Chucky.
Awesome. Okay, so flip side of that, who's your favourite final girl or final guy? Just final survivor character in a film.
Ooh. That's I don't know. It's weird. I'm always drawn to just the side characters. They'll be like this. I don't know why I'm always drawn to like the side characters rather than like the main final girls. I don't know. Hey, come back to me. Come back to me. Let me think about it.
Alex, do you have a favorite final girl?
Yeah, I do, and I will say to Cameron's point, kind of like I like the side characters more too. I like that build-up banter all the time. Usually, the final girl or the final boy is somewhere being real whiny and mopey and prudish somewhere, and it's just like by happenstance that most of these, especially in the '80s, that these final characters actually were final characters, and they were never really like that interesting. It was always about everybody else, kind of building them up. But for like an older, even though it's still a little more modern, final girl, I really like Tina from Friday the 13th Part 7, because what they were trying to go for with her character was trying to make this Jason versus they were going to do Jason versus Freddy then, but due to the I guess what New Dimension and Paramount or whatever the licensing rights, they did a Jason versus Carrie instead, because she's got telekinesis, but it wasn't really Carrie. But she was a really cool final girl, and she was I don't know, she was just pretty strong, I felt, even though she had weak moments, but she was learning to control this power. I thought she was really great. But my all-time favorite ever is Sydney Prescott. I mean,
Yeah, same.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how she keeps living, and I don't ever want to be her friend because all her friends end up on the chocolate block. Everybody around her lives. So, but I love her.
Oh, definitely. Sydney forever. She's my favourite. She's so great. Cameron, have you thought of someone? If you can't think of a final girl, who's your favourite character?
Yeah.
The killer then?
Well, Alex was mentioning Friday the 13th, and I think probably one of my favorite final girls is the Ginny from Friday the 13th 2.
Yeah.
Just because she's really I don't know, she's kind of just more outgoing and more like she's pretty smart, and she uses the psychology against Jason and puts on Mrs. Voorhees' sweater and everything, and she's they're sitting in the bar and she's talking about Jason, and she's like, let's put it in real terms. And I don't know, I always liked her. I always thought she was one of the best. I always kind of thought it was sad that she didn't come back.
Yeah,
I agree. I think Amy Steele really nailed that role of Ginny, and she's one of my top 3 Friday the 13th final girls for sure.
Oh yeah.
And it goes back and forth. Her and Tina usually are the top 2 for me.
Yeah.
Because again, this is the first time the world has kind of seen Jason, because it wasn't Jason in the first one. So this is a brand new environment, a brand new, like the trope hadn't even really existed yet. And here she is, not taking on that cliche role of running up the front, or running up the stairs, whatever. She grabs the machete or the axe, puts on the clothes in front of a decapitated head. It's got to be smelly, and she kills it. I just think it was great.
Yeah. I always wish that they would do, everyone talks about, well, what are they going to do for Friday the 13th, part 13 or whatever. I have this like fantasy idea in my head of having a Friday the 13th, part 13 where all the surviving people come back to like fight Jason one more time. Like bring back Corey Feldman, bring back Amy Steele, bring back Tina from part 7. Like all the people that survived, like bring them back somehow. That's what I would do if I were in charge of Friday the 13th.
That's a fantastic idea. I mean, it's like that sort of, happens in some books. There's like small little pieces of books that have done that, and like I think Stephen Graham Jones, The Last Final Girl kind of has that at play. And then, because they'd have a whole cast, they'd have Final Boys, Final Girls.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that'd be awesome. Oh.
Definitely. There you go.
Oh God.
Sell it to Hollywood, Cameron. You've done it. You've made your millions now.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So mine is Sid as well. Lou, did you have a different favourite final girl?
I was going to cheat and not go for a slasher and say Ripley from Alien.
Oh yeah.
That counts.
I just watched that last night.
Badass. Yep.
Ripley's awesome.
She is.
Awesome. Okay. Which movie or series of movies deserves a reboot?
I don't know if I can really answer that because I'm kind of against reboots. I kind of don't really. I mean, I don't know. I kind of more just like to leave things alone. But the other day though, I had an idea that I was watching Grease, and this is totally weird. But I was watching Grease, and I'm a big fan of like 50s horror movies too. So like things like Creature in the Black Lagoon and like I Was a Teenage Werewolf with Michael Landon. They see it at the theater and everything. And I thought, how cool would it be if they made like a musical version like Grease, but of I Was a Teenage Werewolf, like a show.
Nice.
Like that would be sweet.
Definitely. Yeah, and it would work as well. Definitely. Yeah.
Make it all 50s-y and with the doo-wop type songs and
Yep.
I don't know. I thought that'd be cool. I was just tossing that idea around the other day.
That would be cool. You need to get into the movie business.
Yeah, that's 2 ideas now.
Yeah. Awesome. Alex, what would you like to see given a reboot or something like that?
Yeah, I agree with Cameron that a lot of the reboots and remakes kind of typically fail because we have such nostalgia and high expectations. But a movie that was actually remade, the remake was just that I think deserves justice because the movie itself, while spawning sequels, it didn't really know how it was going to be. It's a cult film. I'll get to the title, but it's a supernatural slasher. And it was a good movie, but I feel like it could be done in a much better way with an unknown cast. It's got to be unknown. The remake had Shannon Elizabeth, it had Eddie Furlong, and it had Monica, I forget her name, but she was in Freddy vs. Jason. But Night of the Demons, I think, would be a great choice to really, because there's not really a lot of supernatural slashers, or effective ones anyway. And I think now we have the technology and just different minds to make it work, to blend the two genres. So that's my choice.
Very cool. I like the sound of that. What was your feeling behind it being unknown actors? Why would that work?
I think, a lot of these movies are better with the unknown actors or actors that were known for different things. I think that's one of Scream's successes is Courtney Cox was a comedian, or on Bruce Springsteen's music video. Like she wasn't really that famous, especially for a serious or a horror movie. Yeah. And Neve Campbell was just, I think, fresh off a Party of Five, maybe. Yeah. I don't even know if she was. I don't think she had done I think Wild Things was still like 2 years later. So the more famous they are, the more the money goes into their salary versus production and writing and the quality of things sometimes. If that makes sense.
It does make sense, yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. Which book do you think would make a good movie, apart from all of Cameron's, obviously?
Obviously, I mean his books are the answer to every question, basically.
Oh, you guys are too kind. I don't know. I mean, like I said, my favorite slasher books are Night Shoot and Unmasked and Camp Slaughter, and I really think that any of those would make an amazing movie. Yeah, really any of those three I think would be great.
Could you see anyone in particular starring in them?
Ooh, not off the top of my head, I kind of like what Alex said about unknown cast, because I kind of like just going into it fresh, and you don't really, I don't know, if you when you have like actors that are well known, you kind of know what part they're gonna play, and you kind of know like the kind of characters they usually play, and I don't know, it always comes with a little bit of baggage, and you can't really surprise people as much, with well-known actors. But yeah, I don't know. I can't really. And slashers too, like, because slashers have always, at least in the 80s, they were very like, these low budget things, and they only could afford unknown actors. So, I mean, that's kind of the nature of slashers, at least the way I see it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Alex, have you got a particular book that you think would translate well into a movie?
If I wanted to ruin your life, I would do The Forgotten Island. But because
I got a spider on my hat today.
Yeah, we don't want that. So, but I will go with Dead Girl Blues, because that's another thing. I just watched for the first time, actually, Nightmare Beach, which is also known as Welcome to Spring Break, with John Saxon from like 88, 89. And it's sort of this Italian-American slasher. So I think that there is a real place for, especially horror film enthusiasts, to kind of see this Italian modernization or Italian crossover. And I think Dead Girl Blues would be perfect for that.
Cool. Okay. So basically, what I'm learning from this so far is that we all love, obviously, Mr. Roubique, but also David Sodergren is just is just god of slasher books.
Yeah, so it's David and Cameron that are the answers to every question.
I think though, because they are such horror film enthusiasts and they like a lot of the crappier movies that I do, Matt Serafini's book, Adam Spazer's book, and Tim Meyer's book would all translate so perfectly on film, because they have these visions, and when I read their books, I have this movie in my head already. So they already set themselves up because of their passion for the genre as well.
They're making a Clown in a Cornfield movie, aren't they?
What?
I thought I read
really?
that.
I don't, that doesn't sound like it's not true, but I can't really pinpoint reading that. But I think I've heard that. That would make sense. I mean, they marketed the hell. That thing is blown up. It came out of the gates like a fast launch, like the Hulk at Universal Studios.
Yeah, love that coaster.
Yeah,
me too, definitely. Right, I'm going to, as soon as this is over, I'm going to message Adam to find out what's going on. And that would have been my choice, Clown in the Cornfield. But that's actually interesting what you said there, Alex, because definitely, I mean, we've spoken to David a few times on here. Obviously, I know that you love your movies, Cameron. Both Tim and Adam have got like their own kind of movie podcast, like with Final Guys, and then Adam does all his stuff. So that's really interesting that you're all into those kind of movies, and it just translates so well into your own writing. And I hadn't really thought about that before, so now I need to watch loads more movies.
And those books, like when I was reading Kill River, I was picturing it in my head like a film.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
I could smell exploring. I could smell the water part the whole
Yeah.
time. I just loved it.
Yes. Yeah.
Smell the chlorine. And
Yep.
well, when I wrote Kill River, I lived in this apartment, and it was just this tiny little one store. It was like a 500 square foot like one bedroom apartment, and there was a pool like down in this little courtyard, and I sat at the table, and there was the window, and then there was the pool, and so as I wrote pretty much the whole thing, there's just people jumping in the pool, and I could constantly hear that, and I could smell the pool and stuff. So I guess I just put all that in the story.
Method writer.
Wow, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Unfortunately, mine's set on the moors, the misty moors in like Exmoor or Dartmoor, and I really don't want to go and sit down there.
Stay off the moors.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, mine's gonna have kind of like the Hound of the Baskervilles backdrop to it, in that the kids that are doing their A levels are going to be studying that. So there's going to be that kind of emphasis of to start with, are they going to think that it's a werewolf or something, but it isn't, and all of that. But I haven't decided exactly what's going on. But sitting and writing in front of a swimming pool sounds a lot better than going down and sitting in the middle of Dartmoor and freezing my ass off.
I am beyond excited for your book. It's going to be amazing.
I cannot wait.
Maybe if I ever
It will.
write. Well, one of the main characters is sat here now because one of the main characters is Alex. So there we go. That's an exclusive.
Wait, I'm so excited. Kill me.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have a really nasty death. Oh, it won't be a unicorn this time though.
It won't be a unicorn demon from under the bed this time.
Not this time, no.
Oh, so you were the one killed by the unicorn.
Yeah, Alex said to me he wanted his death to be by a unicorn, and so my mind obviously went to evil demon unicorn hiding under the bed.
Trying to make it as difficult for her as I can, and I know that a lot of authors are always like, gosh, I just can't think of something that hasn't been done before, and I'm like, hey, tell me with the unicorn. I've never read that. So.
Excellent. Okay, in your opinion, what has to be present within the story to make it a slasher? Because actually I put on Twitter this morning just what were people's favourite slashers, and some of them were putting things that were more serial killer rather than slasher. I'm not kind of an expert on that, but what is it for you that makes it a slasher movie or story rather than a serial killer movie or story? What's the difference? No right or wrong, it's just what is your point of view?
I think slasher stories are just a little bit more like serial killer stories are very grounded and realistic, whereas slasher stories are kind of outrageous and outlandish, and they don't take themselves super seriously, but I don't know, everyone does it really differently. That's the thing I've learned, like going through, reading other people's slasher books, is that everyone approaches it totally differently. Like you look at like Clown in a Cornfield is very much like it's very much a product of like now, and like, it has something to say about like our times and things like that. Whereas like my books, like with Kill River and stuff, like all my books they're just for fun. It's just all about escapism, and there's and nostalgia and stuff, and it's not really like a modern day political thing at all. But yeah, I don't know, everyone does it differently. I would say that they're just more, slasher stories are more fun. That's what I always try to do in my books, is I always just try to just have as much fun as possible with them.
Yeah, they are fun. Would you ever try and market them as YA?
No. I mean, I know that the characters, I always go with like, high school type characters and things like that, but I think I just do that just because like high school and stuff was about probably my favorite time of my life, and I kind of just like to go back and relive it like in my stories and things like that. But I really think that they're more for, I would never like presume to know like what kids like now, or like what might appeal to them. I have no idea. I'm out of touch. Like, I don't know. I think of them more as they're for people like us who are people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, even maybe even early 60s who were young when slashers came out, or who were old enough to have been like in the block, we rented them from video rental places and went to Blockbuster and rented them and things like that. So I would say that's who my target audience is.
Awesome. Alex, what do you think? What's the difference between a slasher and a serial killer? What makes it a slasher story?
I think, to kind of piggyback off what Cameron started with about, Climbing a Cornfield versus his books versus, movies like Halloween and Friday the 13th. The one thing that does, I think, unite them is there's a few things that I think that make these slashers and they unified, and lots of dead teenagers. And that doesn't, just because there's teenagers, it doesn't, make it a YA. I think that Adam did a fantastic job at making something like that. So YA, I haven't really seen that before, and I wouldn't have ever expected a slasher to be YA. So I think that was a pretty good sort of a very unique take on it. Another thing that I think that all slashers have in common is it's not necessarily coming of age, but there is this. I mean, some of these slasher movies, even, it'll be 45, 50 minutes until you even get a kill. It's just these kids. They're just partying. They're having fun. They're doing drugs. They're dancing. They're having sex. They're just being kids and having these camaraderie type moments. And I think a lot of slashers have those elements. And then, of course, a serial killer versus a slasher is most slashers have, yes, they start out with just a knife, and that's still totally acceptable. But there's a lot of non-conventional weapons used in these slasher movies. There's chainsaws, lawnmower blades, blenders. There's just all kinds of insanity, and and even those slashers, there are strangulations in slashers, and every now and then there'll be a gun. But I do think it is the variety of weaponry that also plays a factor.
That's true.
They're true entrepreneurs.
As Cameron can attest to, one of the kills in his last book that totally just destroyed me, and we talked about it in Twitter DMs. It was just a fantastic kill, and it wasn't necessarily, it was a non-conventional death, and it was amazing. So.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Right, is there a trope that you don't like, or do you just take them for what they are, which is pretty cliche? And that obviously some films like Scream then went a step further, and the characters are aware of the tropes and that kind of thing. So basically, how do you stand on tropes in slasher movies?
I don't really mind tropes in slasher movies. I actually I base my books off when I write books, I base them off the very kind of familiar structure. I think that's kind of one of the nice things about slashers is that it's such a familiar, exactly what's gonna happen. It starts out with the kids and they're being stalked and nothing really that bad is going on, and then it's the secondary characters get killed off, and then it's the final person, their chase scenes and fighting the killer off multiple times, and with that familiar structure, it kind of allows me to really just be as creative as possible and just have as much fun with it as possible, and you don't really have to worry too much about are people going to understand what's going on? Exactly what's going on. You've seen it a million times. And we're just, I just get to be just creative with it. So yeah, the tropes don't really bother me. The one thing that I really don't like is when horror movies go just too far with the self-awareness and the comedy and stuff, where they're just winking at you the whole time. Oh, get it? It's just, I don't know. It kind of a lot of people love Friday the 13th 6, Jason Lives, and a lot of people think that one's the best one, and I think it's okay, but the jokes in that one just bug me. They get I've seen enough. What does the girl say? I've seen enough horror movies to know that a guy wearing a mask is never friendly, and it's just like, oh boy, don't.
But we got Zombie Jason finally. That's the best thing about that. It totally changed the entire trajectory of the franchise with Zombie
Yeah.
Jason.
I mean, I like 6, but just every time like they have the stupid jokes and the cutesy editing, and the little kids like, well, what were you gonna be when you grew up? And it's just like, oh my god. Like, I don't know. It takes me out of it and just ruins. I like the spooky, like, I mean, I think I like the spooky build up to the kills more than the actual kill itself. It's just if you can get like a cool, set up to a kill where just when someone's just walking around, they're hearing scary things and hello, and like, like that's my favorite thing about the slashers. And I don't know, whenever there's too much self-awareness and stuff, it just takes me out of it. But I do love Scream. I will say I do like Scream. Scream's just really well written. It's a good, and it's actually, Scream is really intense still, despite its jokes.
Yep.
And I think Scream works because they actually have a genuinely funny cast. Like Jamie Kennedy and Matthew Lillard are like genuinely hilarious guys, and I think that's why the jokes work in that one so much. But I don't know.
No, cool. That makes sense. Alex, how do you feel about Tropes?
So I look at when I think about tropes, I think about horror, basically modern horror and like 80s or beyond, or earlier, I should say. In the earlier movies, I think the tropes exist and for a reason. I mean, I can't imagine them not having those tropes, like the final girl trope, the final boy trope, tripping while you're running trope kind of thing. Like now, like while I don't like seeing like tripping while you're running now. I'm like, really? Have we not learned this yet? Like yes, it happens, sure, but like I'm tired of seeing people fall down. So
That's me and you.
Yeah.
I mean, am I gonna fall down? Probably. You're running so fast, you trip over your own feet. It's gonna happen. But at the end of the day, like when someone falls down and then the killer is just instantly there, like I don't like that so much. Another trope that I don't like, and I don't know if this is a trope or not, but in all these reboots and remakes, they try to go over the top, in depth, rationalizing why a killer is that way, and
Yeah.
I think it takes away from the pacing and the slashing and the killing of everything by going into the psychoses of, wow, why is Michael Myers such a bad boy kind of thing. Like, I just don't, I'm not into that. And another thing, in 2021, 2020, 2019, anybody walking anywhere without their cell phone is false. Especially if especially if you're dumb enough to investigate a spooky noise by yourself. You take your cell phone. I mean, people take their cell phone to the bathroom. You're going to the cellar with your cell phone. I mean, come on now. And if I go anywhere, I already have 911 ready to hit send. Like I listened to a podcast called Crime Junkie Pod, and they came up with the phrase, or they coined it for me, called preparanoid. I'm not paranoid. When I had my first date with my husband, 2013, I had knives everywhere. I had a knife in the water tank of the toilet. I had a knife under my pillow. I had a knife everywhere. I was ready to stab somebody if they made a move on me because I was, paranoid. But it works.
Scary.
So at one point, my husband rolled over, and he was like, this is like a few years ago. He was out of town for work, and I forgot there was still a butcher's knife in the bed. And he was like, "What the hell is this?" He's like, "Why is there a knife?" I was like, "Oh, I mean, I was home alone. I'm not gonna be just by myself in the middle of the night, just one off." But also, to Cameron's point about the build-up and the suspense, and I know we keep tying it back to his stuff, but the scene in Kill River that I referenced with death, it kind of gave me these vibes of I Know What You Did Last Summer, when Sarah Michelle Gellar's character is in her shop and she's walking around. There's all these mannequins that are covered with like a tarp, like a clear tarp. You know the killer's going to be under one of those. You just know he's going to be under one of those, and he is. You're not even upset when it finally is, and you still jump and you still scream. So I love that.
Yeah, he's talking about the gift shop part in Kill River 3.
I haven't got to that one yet.
We haven't got that far yet.
The water park. There's a character that goes into the water park gift shop, and there's a bunch of the masks and all kinds of merchandise with the spooky smiley face character in there.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. Okay, where have we got to? Okay, now you've already come up with a good idea for this one, Cameron, but the last question was going to be, what could be done in a future story to make it be unique but still very much a slasher? So you mentioned about bring all the final girls and stuff back, and let's have a, so you've got to think of something else now because you've cheated, I've decided.
Well, I don't know if I can really answer that question. I have a bunch of different ideas, but they're future books that I'm going to be working on. So I don't know if I can really say anything. I don't want to ruin it.
No, you don't want anyone to steal your amazing ideas either.
True.
How is the next Year of Blood story coming?
Good. I just passed the halfway point a couple nights. No, 2 nights ago. So I stayed up till like midnight and I was finishing out the last scene. And I feel bad. I'm sorry, Lou. I was reading Hellhound and I wanted to finish the whole thing so I could talk with you about it, but I only got to the end of part 1 because I had this surge of writing where I was like, I got to get all this done.
It's okay, I forgive you.
But only once. If you're on again and you haven't done it, that's it.
That's your homework now.
Your toilet paper is safe for now, Cameron.
That's all right. Alex admitted to me that he'd never read anything of mine until the other day either, so fine. Okay, Alex, come on then. What would your big idea be?
This was so hard because to come right off the previous question, there's a reason the tropes work. There's a reason the formula works, and we talked about what makes slashers slashers. So I love just to keep going on with those, but I think that one thing that I don't know that it's been done, and if it has, I'd love to see it. And Cameron sort of talked about it earlier, but make a full-on slasher musical. Because I've actually seen the Evil Dead musical, and I've seen Silence of the Lambs the musical, and they are freaking brilliant. They are amazing, and yes, they're not like they follow the story and the plot, but with the songs too, they can make it dark, but usually they make it funnier, and it works with the Evil Dead because the Evil Dead is sort of already funny. To it. And Silence of the Lambs not so much.
I can't imagine.
But it's the musical was just called Silence, and it was hilarious. But I think a musical slasher, like a full-on, really well done and produced, and like they either try to make it. I don't know if you can make it funny or not. I mean, sorry, make it serious or not. But that's their job. But I mean, well, Slumber Party Massacre 2 is musical adjacent, I should say, because the girls are in a band and they sing songs by a real band called Wednesday Week. And then the Driller Killer has 1 or 2 songs where he's just bebopping around and dancing and killing and drilling while he's singing. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, I can see it working, definitely. And I think that's it, isn't it? Because a lot of them, they don't take themselves too seriously. So to suddenly break out into song in the middle of a slasher movie wouldn't actually be the biggest surprise. It would work quite nicely.
Yeah, and Anna and the Apocalypse was like a musical kind of zombie slasher. I could maybe, but it had I think it was received pretty well. And wasn't that based on a novel? Or did a novel come after? You all know?
I don't know.
The book. But I thought it was pretty fun.
Definitely. Okay, cool. Right. Well, I think that we've gone through all of our main questions. Is there anything else that you, both being experts on the genre, is there anything else that you would like to, I know that Cameron could talk about movies all night long, so is there anything else that you would like to add to the kind of discussion of the reason why slashers mean so much to you? What is it in, specifically above everything else within the horror genre? What is it about slashers?
For me, I don't know. Slashers just always have been just fun. I didn't really grow up watching a ton of them. I watched like the first couple of Halloweens. I watched the Chucky, the original like Child's Play trilogy. I think I watched the first couple of Nightmare on Elm Streets when I was like 14. And I didn't really see any of the others until I was at least in high school. And I don't know, they were just always fun to me. My parents hated them. My parents were just like, those are stupid. They're just all about gore and kills, and yeah, you don't want to watch that. They're dumb. And I ended up just kind of falling in love with them on my own. And I don't know, like when I was in school, there was someone, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl. They were on YouTube when YouTube first came out, and they posted all these slasher movies just on their page. I think their handle was like Camp Slasher or something, and that's how I saw most of the ones that I saw, just for free. Just someone just posted like 10-minute chunks of all these slasher stories, and I don't know, when I was in early college and stuff, that kept me going, as I'd come home and I'd just watch those. And oh, what do you post today? All right, we'll watch this Killer Party. Okay, I don't never heard of that, but I don't know, let's watch it. And yeah, just I don't know, I just love them. And it's cool to me too to kind of like, I put a lot of my own like with all the teen characters, I can put like a lot of my own like just fun memories and things like that in my books. I can say that this one that I'm working on now is definitely going to be the most like autobiographical book I've done so far, like by far. So there's a lot of like, my real life type stuff in them that I put in them. So I don't know, it's fun to me. It's kind of a way to take things that happened and kind of build a fun new thing out of them. I'm kind of stuck in the past, but I build something for the future out of it,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense.
It does. I know Cameron describes your books as very cozy. That's why he says they're cozy reads.
Yeah.
And that nostalgia definitely, as you said, we're probably like I know we're similar ages, although I'm a bit older. But yeah, there is just something about it. It just brings back all those kind of, evokes all those feelings and whatnot. It's a cozy thing to read and to remember. Definitely. Alex, what is it about slashers that makes you love them so much?
Well, for me, I grew up, my dad was in his mid to late 50s when he had me. He'd already kind of retired from corporate management life. And, I'm the youngest of 8 kids. He was just going to be his own boss at that point. So he owned a video store when I was growing up. So I remember walking down the horror movie aisles and just being entranced with covers like of the Slumber Party movies, the Howling, even though it's not really a slasher, but all those covers. The Poltergeist movies were even the covers, like it just was so scary walking down these aisles. And then watching those movies with my brothers and cousins, I was always, the annoying little go away, but we could bond regardless of just a few years in age gap. We could bond over our shared fear of these movies. So I thought that was a really cool way, and that made me realize that these types of movies can bring people, not just family. They can bring people together in ways that you didn't experience or didn't know. And that's why I'm doing this podcast with my best friend Emily. We were high school together. We used to watch these horror movies. We used to make these crappy horror movies. I mean, we drove to the top of the mountains in the snow, got into a car wreck trying to make a horror movie kind of thing. So they really do connect people, and they make and I think it's not just it is everybody, but I think especially people with anxiety. I think horror, and there's been studies with horror and people with anxiety and depression. I think that watching horror, reading horror, first of all, it gives a way to like normalize that anxiety because it's happening. You're seeing it unfold and these paranoid and panic attacks. So it's just a way of that. It's a good way to like, you can maintain control watching a slasher because you can predict what's going to come. You know the tropes. So watching something you know is going to happen is a very powerful tool, I think. And then there's like all this, not to get too deep, but like evasion therapy and all these different tactics. So, and slashers just have all of that without being too serious. They're just fun. I don't know. That's a lot of reasons why I like it. And I hope that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
It did.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you both very much for your time. It's been wonderful to talk to you both. And then sort of when you say about it brings people together, the reason why I kind of connected with Cameron to start with was through our Cameron Chaney, but also then just like kind of getting to know you because of your books. And then you actually were the person that said to me, you need to write something set in the 80s. Get on with it, woman.
Well, you wrote that short story that was set in the 80s, and I thought it was great. I loved it. And I always wonder like why more people aren't doing that. I always kind of, because every time I see new slasher books, they're always set now, and I always wonder, I'm like, how come no one else is doing what you'd think other people would do, especially with like Stranger Things and all that stuff out there. You'd think more people would be doing it, but if I did see anyone else doing something similar to what I'm doing, I'm like, I wouldn't be offended. I'd be like, hell yeah, because I write books that I would want to read. And when you said you wanted to write a story that was set in the 80s, I'm like, oh my god, yes,
that's it.
That's what I'm talking about. That's gonna be awesome.
It's amazing. I've got like a list of about 10 people already that have said I want to beta read it, and I'm like, I haven't even written it yet.
Come on.
Everybody is so excited for it. So it's but I don't know that I would even have considered doing it if I hadn't have met you and spoken to you about it. So that's awesome. Thank you, Cameron.
You're very welcome.
And
I'm
Alex is someone that Alex is someone who I've been following following, that sounds really like ominous, but
I got vibes everywhere. Don't follow me too close.
on various social media for ages and ages and ages, and it's just such a lovely guy. So I'm so pleased that we finally got to talk to you both, because I was very excited today.
Yeah.
So just before we wrap up, where can people find you? Where's the best place for people to connect with you and buy your things and stuff?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram's just my handle's just my name, Cameron Roubique, and Twitter my handle is Lil Cameron, with underscores in between the Lil and Lil _ Cam _ Ron. And I have websites for my books too. There's killriver.com and there's yearofblood.com. So yeah, those are usually the best ways to get in touch.
Awesome. We'll put all the links down below and all the professional bits so people can find your books. Alex, how can people find you?
If people want to find me and talk about books and other things, just one-on-one, I'm on Twitter and Instagram, finding Montauk1. And then if anybody, which I would love to go into more in-depth with slashers, I did just launch this new podcast with my best friend. We've got one teaser episode from December and 4 official episodes. We're a weekly Wednesday release about the best and worst slashers you've ever seen or never heard of. And that we're on all the platforms, podcast platforms. We're on Twitter and Instagram. It's Gag Me with a Knife. So there's those two ways, and I look forward to talking to everybody who loves slashers.
You even get to hear a bit of Alex's singing, if you're lucky, on the podcast as well.
I'm also a very bad comedian, because we don't take ourselves too seriously, just like slashers don't, and much respect to anybody and everybody who does take their podcast more seriously, and they go through rigorous editing and cutting and all of those things, and that is great. I don't have that skill to even do that amount of work. But we don't edit. we don't edit things. We don't. If what we say is on the fly, we don't rehearse. Like, I try not to even talk to her about a movie if I had never seen it, because I want the reactions to be as genuine as possible. So I've definitely shocked her and left her laughing so hard that it's like, for sometimes like 30 seconds she can't even talk, because so it's real. So bear with us on our amateur hour that we do.
And I think that is the best way to be. And I mean, I've only listened to the first episode so far, but I actually like that. You know, that it comes across, it's very natural. It's just like two buddies sitting down and having a conversation, which is what you're doing. And I think that there's so many people out there that take themselves way too seriously. So it's like Lou and I, we are very serious, very professional.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with a serious podcast. That's just not, if you know me, I'm not a serious person, so I'm also not going to be that serious. But I also, again, like, I don't have the talent and skill that a lot of these professional podcasters have, and I'm in awe of some of the work that they can do. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you both very, very much for spending some time with us today. We've really enjoyed it, and I've made lots of notes so that I don't have to do too much homework. Woohoo!
I've got lots of films to watch.
Lots of films to watch, yeah.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, had a great time.
Thank you very much, guys. Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.